After wandering all day in the old capital, having reread Wang Wei's Living in the Hills, an introduction to Wang Wei. Late at night, the city walls still radiating heat, it seems I've walked enough for the day. I'm finally ready to leave the old city.
The moon has risen. Shadows fall across the eastern gate.
Far to the south, the cranes are silent, having made their nests among the pines.
Here too.
Here too.
Only the sound of branches, cooling bricks.
No human
No
voice.
human voice. Moon viewing from the late Tang.
A poem is either a poem of sorts or nothing, a mistake from first to last, though existence on occasion speaks its feelings. Ugliness brightening the roofs of the pleasure quarter, shot through with ecstasy and fresh, youthful hair.
Want to.
Dare not.
Wish to.
Cannot.
The voices are drunk on the wedding night.
Sight.
Smell.
Flesh.
Tears.
1,000 years after meaning has been lost, yet who bothers to look up? The youthful ghosts still leaned against the painted rail. Pleasure's intense, invulnerable life. A desolate world, lost in detail, where the bronze pans set out by an emperor to catch the dew and immortality survive, and by the eastern gate, where once again the moon has risen on Chang'an, the bronze immortals weep because their lords are gone.
Mountains and Rivers, an introduction to Du Fu. I hear the country swallowing its sounds. In the riverside palaces, 1,000 doors lock up the greenness of the new spring's rushes. Mountains and rivers ruined by the state survive, though barely. Why should spring still bother turning green? I remember the rainbow banner that used to end south of here, and the park within all things that put forth color. There was a palace in each person. Maids of honor carried bows and arrows. White horses chomped on yellow metal. If you bent back to face the sky, you could bring down clouds. Laughter brought down rain. Now the toll of industry keeps wandering souls from returning. Clear water flows only in remote places, though neither the one who stayed nor the one who went have any news of it at all. It's human enough to cry over this. How can rivers, water, and flowers end? The city's covered with the dust of an artificial twilight. I can only look north and pin my hopes on the loyal grasses that once went on forever. Spring, an introduction to Wang Wei. Now it is spring, and a boat will come from the south, plowing upstream. Birds will float behind the mast, and misty reeds make clouds in water. I'll ask you where you're going, and you'll say you are a failure, going off to hibernate among the mountains. The cities will become invisible. Fields will darken. Herds will graze in drizzle. I'll see your bright coat vanishing, and among seasonal plants, insects will clamor, and spiders sing from beams. Feelings are eternally sprouting from the world. I'll lie in this corner of heaven and watch the mountains hiding remotely in that endless blur.
The Constellations, an introduction to Du Fu. A man's life is not seeing another's life, like two constellations, one always rising while the other is setting. Rigel, Betelgeuse, and Bellatrix in Orion, and the two unnamed stars, one perhaps Antares, and the other Wei in Scorpio. This evening, then, what is evening but the sharing of lamplight? Youth's vigor doesn't last. Temples turn grey, and half my friends are ghosts. Those 20 years walk the halls. Sons and daughters form sudden rows, tapering away in every direction, every one a question and answer being. Night rain cuts the spring chives. Rice, cooking, mixes with yellow millet, but friendship never empties. We are always separated from tomorrow by mountain peaks, and the world's affairs on both sides are lost to sight.
The gates of Chu. When stones opposite the openings of side streets scare away demons, what would an actual god be like? Not the ascent of a mountain, seen or not seen. Not elaborate rules arrayed around us like the distant, fixed stars in a cosmos wheeling overhead each night. Beauty is concentrated by order and wildness, the moon climbing into the arms of her daughter. Houses and roads that pass in and out of existence, not knowing we have already gone because it is late April and the year at last is beautiful again. Now I have come to the gates of Chu, the village where lightness was born. I imagine the crimson terraces, the northern desert stretched as though before her eyes, but only the green tomb is left, as solitary as before dusk, the houses of the great families finally emptied. Everything is ultimately indescribable. Only the roar of existence, like a dish of dark red agate out of which a flame continuously fed by strips of satin, blazes with a godlike metalsomeness, a kingfisher brushing the sky, a paradox the centuries will multiply steadily. And yet to look at anything, as a god might, when there's so much to forget. I look at my hand, and it's the end of the world.